So today's topic is all around emotional eating. So for those of you who may have read my blog post this week, or you would know that I've had quite an up and down relationship in my life. So I was in the very envious position growing up, be in a family which was in the hospitality industry. One of the businesses that our family owned at some point was an ice cream parlor. And my father made the most amazing, authentic Italian gelato. So I grew up with ice cream being a daily, and that was something that still today, it is my number one favorite dessert. There is nothing that beats ice cream for me. Okay. In addition to that, my gran had quite interesting tactics. Was dealing with my sister and myself. She had in her wardrobe a whole section of the wardrobe filled with chocolates. And those chocolates would be used if we were sad, maybe we hurt ourselves, maybe we were crying. We would go to our gran, and gran would give us a chocolate. If we did something really rewarding, and if we were best disciplinarian, so if we were misbehaving, we were bribed with a chocolate. So chocolate has also very strong connotations in my life around making me feel. Add to that obviously we get taught all about and sugar, and I grew up when to be really healthy, and when I was at school we were taught about the food pyramid. Part of the food pyramid was carbs and starches, and we were told that every single meal that should be the foundation of the meal, and I grew up thinking that carbs and starches are so incredibly healthy for us and filling, and of course it was also relatively inexpensive food. I'm also from an Italian, so our family home was pasta, pizza, risotto, you name it. Bread was so important in our home, and all these things have colored my whole cup. I have eaten for a big portion of my life. Glynis is online with us. Hello, Glynis. And she's just made a comment. My mom and grandma comforted us with food too. Yes, that's what, especially the women in the households, food is often the go-to thing that they love. Their way of showing love is with food. Certainly in my household, both my mom and my gran, food was a way of expressing love. So that was a big, big part of growing up. I did with you last week, and it's one of the reasons why I've picked this topic this week, is because I think it's so close to last week. So, and I shared with you last week about how I didn't feel good enough, and how I didn't really love myself or much. And this teamed with very poor eating habits meant that whenever I wasn't feeling good, I would comfort myself. And I spent many, many years where food was the place to go to fix anything. If I was sad, I'd eat. I ate. If I was angry, I ate. I felt inadequate, not enough. I ate. Now, eating wasn't only for bad times. Eating is also a celebration. A good thing that I can remember in my life always happened around the table, the meal table. All our big family events. all the birthdays, Christmas, when the family got together, everything got celebrated always around a meal. So meals have this connotation of joy and happiness. Things weren't good when I wasn't feeling all right. I was feeling a little depressed. That was maybe a way for me to access temporary joy that I got whenever we were around the table having meals. The only difference is I wasn't in a social situation with other people. I was eating those meals all on my own and comforting myself with those meals. The thing is that these terrible eating habits, it's not just that they are triggered by our emotions. Typical foods that we comfort ourselves with are also all highly addictive. In these, you feel bad, you eat food. Eating food you shouldn't have eaten. Feel bad again. Did get a temporary of the addictive nature of the food that we were eating. So this horrible cycle continues and continues and continues. Past about 3 years now, managed to get myself out of that cycle, and I had a few practices that I put into place to energize my body and to enjoy the foods in a moderate way rather than binge eating on crisps and ice cream and chocolate and you feel good for a little while. So what were the strategies that I did to get out of the... So the first thing that we need to know is that there are two sides to emotional eating. The first side is obviously the emotional side, and to understand how to get to the bottom of the emotional triggers. And then the second side is the nutritional side, and that's to educate ourselves and understand what good food is and what to eat, because sometimes dealing with the emotional side is not a permanent fix, it's an ongoing fix. It's something you're going to work at all the time. And there will be times when those triggers are going to come up and you're going to need to know how to deal with them. So let's look at the emotional side first. It's the more important side. It is also the harder side of the two sides of this coin. Many of us don't always feel comfortable to look at our emotions, which is why we get into the situation in the first place. Or we never get taught how to deal with the emotions. And so we need to relearn these skills or learn them if we've never learned them before. So the first thing is, it's really important that we look at our self-worth. Now, I'm not going to go into how to do that because I covered all that last week. So if you want to, please go take a look at that post again and go into the different strategies that I used in order to learn to love myself again. A lot of our feelings around our own self-esteem, how we see ourselves, particularly for us women, our body image, all can act as triggers for these emotions that will bring about binge eating. So please take a look at that, and it's very important one looks at our own self-worth, and that would build up our self-confidence and see our value as a human being and how we add value to the world. This will definitely be a first and very important step to emotion habits. The second thing is that We may have emotions that have nothing to do with our self-worth. There may be other things related. And even those which do have to do with our self-worth, we have many wounds that we carry with us since whenever in our lives, and those all color how we deal with the every single day. And when those emotions come up, we have to have an outlet for the emotions. We mustn't be so sensitive, or don't be so emotional. It's unprofessional to show your emotions, or etc., etc., or it's a sign of weakness. So we constantly put in and we just bury the emotions, and there's no outlet for it. And that's why we suddenly find that we need to somehow comfort ourselves because we're overwhelmed by these emotions that we're not dealing with. So you need to have an outlet for emotions. And there's a number of things that one can do. The first thing that I find very powerful is journaling. We don't we trust someone, or we feel we might be judged. And a journal is a good space where you can just get out of your system, get off your heart and out of your head and onto a piece of paper exactly what you're feeling, what you are dealing with. This will help you to unpack it a bit and also to contextualize it better. When we don't do this, really are. So having a practice of journaling, try to journal every single day, just 10 to 15 minutes, and get everything that's in your heart and in your head. You don't have to revisit it again, just have an outlet for it. One trick that I've is that negative emotion, take the piece of, tear the book, and that would psychologically help you to let go of those emotions. So that's also worth trying. Have someone that you trust. Talking about it is also good. The great thing about talking about it to help you to put it into better perspective. Or not coming to conclusions, or not are not a and they can also help you to. So if you've got someone that you really trust and you feel comfortable to be vulnerable with, do that. If not, getting professional help, depending on the nature of the emotions, it could be a coach, it could be a therapist, etc. That would be a very healthy space in which to unpack those emotions. Exercise, moving is a great way to get rid of your emotions, particularly the more energized. If you're feeling really angry, you can go run it out or boss it out or whatever it is that you need to do. Those are great. A technique that somebody told me at one stage, I tried it at one stage, well, bad emotion. So I'm not able to get angry because whatever situation I am in, then when I get home, to go and scream into my pillow, strong emotion of anger, or if tears in, so I to actually release that physical emotion, okay, rather than turning to food. And then lastly, out of the thing or stress levels and the emotions that is too. So meditation really helps to quieten the mind. It also helps when we do that to put things into perspective, and can serve as a means to release some emotions that we don't want to release. So those are things that I did to help me with the emotional side for me, and how I managed to deal with those. And then the second side, which is there to help support the process, is the nutritional side. The first key thing is get yourself educated. Understand what is good food. Often our poor food choices are because we don't know what is worth eating. And you can't trust the labels on packets. Everybody says that their item is healthy or low fat or whatever it is that they call it. And we assume that then we can eat it in copious amounts because the label said that it's fine. Well, the thing is that these labels are there to sell. They want your money. So they have no qualms about misleading you into what is actually good, healthy food that fuels your body. A good rule of thumb is to its natural state, the better it is for you. So you want to buy food that is in your fresh food section in your supermarket. Lots of fruits and vegetables. And if you're a meat eater, fresh meat, and depending on how your relationship is with dairy, then you might have dairy. But you want things that have a sell-by date, which food that is found on shelves in the supermarket and have a very long date to be healthy are often the foods that we turn to for comfort eating, and are often highly, highly addictive and laden with sugar. So a good rule of thumb is try to keep as fresh as possible. We don't really need to have sugar or carbs in our diet. And a very good place to start your educational journey is to watch the movie That Sugar Film. I found that to be an incredible resource in terms of really, in a very simple way, explaining which foods are healthy for us and which are not, and really how dangerous all these so-called health foods are. The other good thing to have is, in case you are in a moment of weakness, and in that moment you just need to have something to comfort you, your insurance policy in those times is to make sure that you are only surrounded by healthy food. So if you need to go to something, you have healthy snacks available. Healthy snacks that you enjoy, maybe some nuts. Those of you who are in South Africa, you'll know what biltong is. You know, those kind of things are healthy foods, or have a fruit. But do not ever keep accessible to you crisps and chocolates and sweets, or having nothing available to the car and go to the drive-through and order a burger and fries. So keep yourself well stocked with the healthy stuff. And then also what I found was really, really useful for me is water. When I'm well hydrated, when I'm drinking my 2.5 to 3 liters of water a day, I find that any cravings or temptations actually stay clear of me. And I find myself much better able to manage my decisions if I have a to comfort. So drinking that, and then the last thing that goes hand in hand with the water is making sure that you sleep really, really well. I'm not going to go into the full science around why sleep is so important, but in today's giveaway, I explained that fully, how sleep works. But if we don't get enough sleep, it plays with our hormones. It plays with about 4 or 5 different hormones. So with our cortisol, with our ghrelin, with our leptins, and with how our insulin works. And all these impact our cravings and whether we feel hungry or not, or full or not. And it also impacts our ability to make smart decisions. So often when we have poor willpower, it's actually not that we don't have good willpower. It's simply we're probably not getting enough sleep. So our brains and our body is not working correctly because all our hormones are out of whack. So sleep is critical, at least 7 hours. And you will already see that and also through sleep, you are helping to process emotions as well. So that's, in a nutshell, some of the tips and techniques that I use to help me with having a much better relationship with food and dealing with the cravings and temptations that come when I'm triggered by certain emotions. I hope that it was useful for you. Have the most amazing week, and I look forward to seeing you then. Bye.